Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Jason Deline, an actor who's popped up in everything from X-Men, Days of Future Past, and The Walk, to Arrow, Warehouse 13, and Aftermath. He's performed voice roles in numerous Beyblade series and Arthur, and a bunch of other stuff, and you'll see him later this year on Star Trek Discovery. And given that it's Fan Expo week in Toronto, this seemed like the perfect time to have him on the show. Jason picked Batman the Movie, producer William Dozier's 1966 feature film spin-off of the ABC television series that defined the character for a generation or more. Adam West and Burt Ward were Batman and Robin, fighting their way through a rogues gallery of celebrity guest stars that included Cesar Romero's Joker, Burgess Meredith's Penguin, Frank Gorshin's Riddler, all of whom were recruited for this big screen venture, along with Lee Meriwether stepping in for Julie Newmar as Catwoman. It's complicated. But so was the plot, too big for one villain easily, as the Cape Crusaders' greatest enemies band together to take the United Nations hostage or something. I don't know. They're evil. It's an evil plan. You know the deal. West's death earlier this year gives a melancholy underpinning to the proceedings now, but I think we can still appreciate the production in its intended context, which is just campy fun. This is Someone Else's Movie.
I've always liked Batman, and I didn't see this movie when it first came out. Obviously, I mean, I was born 12 years after it came out, but I didn't see the movie sort of in chronological order. It came out after the first season of the series, and then we had two more. I watched the series in its entirety numerous times on reruns when I was a kid, and I didn't see the movie for years later, and I had trouble with it when I first saw it because I didn't have the attention span, I guess, as a kid. I liked the 20-minute two-parter type thing, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Adam West was my first introduction into Batman when I was a kid. As many kids before me, I saw him on TV, and I didn't know it was a comedy. I thought this was a superhero show, and drink your milk and wear your seatbelt. I love this stuff. It got me to respect rules and law enforcement and just doing good. Mm-hmm. But also the fun of dressing up, the idea of a superhero. So much of that was so much fun for me without getting any of the jokes. And I didn't know I was watching these legends of film play these bad guys and girls every week. And then as I got older, I would go back to it because I would hear people say, yeah, that show was so funny. And I would think, well, really? And I'd watch it again and think, wow, yeah, I appreciate this on a whole new level now. It's so funny. And then years later, I'd go back to it. Oh, wow, look at all these legends of film. After I've watched older films as someone who became a film fan later in life. And then again, the satire, the parody, and then the layers of acting. And I just find more to appreciate about it every time I go back to it. And these days, it became so popular to darken Batman as a response to this series. I guess in the 70s, we got the Super Friends stuff and some of the Scooby-Doo meets Batman and Robin and Adam West and Burt Ward. I lent their voices to some of that. So that was still some fun. But then once we got into the 80s and Frank Miller did The Dark Knight Returns, everything changed. Yeah. And that's 30 years ago. And we're still in this dark Batman era.
Well, if anything, they've doubled down, right? Because
absolutely, yeah.
Burton, who was still pretty playful.
Yeah, but the gothic sort of...
serious stuff.
He did it seriously.
And then you get Schumacher as a course correction, and nobody likes that.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, and I feel like he was trying to honor... I feel like he was really trying. He wasn't trying to make a bad movie, but he was trying to inject the 60s fun and color in a time where we weren't ready for it again, maybe.
Yeah. And when maybe the actors weren't terribly comfortable with it either. And
yeah, I think everyone was doing a different thing.
Yeah.
I feel like Schwarzenegger was the only one who really understood, but that was such a bad movie.
Yeah.
And those lines were so bad. It just didn't work. I feel bad for Clooney. I mean, he might have been an okay Batman, but there was no room for him.
Yeah, he's still my favorite Bruce Wayne, weirdly enough.
Is that right?
He's
just so dapper and charming.
Yeah, he's enjoying himself in a way that could be performance, but maybe not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the whole point after Batman Forever is that now Batman is well adjusted, or Bruce Wayne is accepting all of this.
Yes.
And so Clooney at least gets just to have fun with that.
Yeah, there's no pain in Clooney's performance, but you definitely buy him as a billionaire who's having a good time.
Right. Less convincing as Batman, unfortunately, because of the suit and the movie that he's in.
Yeah, it's such a weird movie. I've tried to watch it a couple times knowing I don't like it, and it doesn't help. It could have been fun. I don't hate Forever. It's not as good going back to it as I remembered it. Tommy Lee Jones, I think, is woefully miscast as Two-Face. Carrey's having a great time, but he can have fun doing anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the first two Burton ones. They're a little slow and weird, and I think Keaton is an amazing choice because he sort of tempers the darkness and makes it fun.
Yeah.
Nicholson, same thing. And then now with the Nolan stuff, I don't feel like it was quite as dark, but takes itself more seriously. And now we're having fun again. We got the Lego Movie.
Sure.
Showed us that people are okay with having fun with Batman again. And I was a little nervous about the Lego Batman movie. I thought, do people want this much of it? But
they do.
Yeah, I had so much fun with that. It wasn't as fresh as the Lego Movie. I mean, they tried to do a lot of the same things, but. Man, it is a fanboy's dream, the amount of references in that movie.
Yeah.
And they sort of allude to the fact that it's been the same guy since 1939. Some of the photos in his photo album.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense, but what the heck? I mean, super fun, yeah.
And it brings you back to that 8-year-old joy.
Yes.
That you get from the original series and that they sort of steered right into at the time. It's, I mean, I had the same basic formative experience. I grew up with it on TV. I watched the movie, I think I saw it theatrically once, because my grandfather owned the theater when I was a kid, and I'm pretty sure he programmed it for my birthday or my brother's birthday. I think, actually for me, I think it was Godzilla vs. Megalon, and Mike got Batman, I think. But it's all so cloudy, because I was so young. I know I saw it in the theater, I just don't remember whose.
Right.
And then that was the early 70s, and then Batman went sort of dormant for me. I was more of an X-Men guy in the 80s for the comic books. I was less interested in the conception of Batman, and then they sort of got him back to being serious but a little sarcastic. There was a run called Batman and the Outsiders that was really intense and serious about Batman, but everybody else were just weird cartoons. And one of those characters shows up in Suicide Squad, Katana, who is reimagined in the movie Suicide Squad as a stunt woman who wandered into the frame a bunch of times because they never figured out what to do with her character. But that Batman was actually kind of close to Adam West. He's very serious. He's ridiculously forthright and upright, and just the guy in charge as all the ridiculous stuff happens around him. I mean, rewatching the movie kind of cemented my take on West Batman as a sort of children's show host. Because that's what he got hired for. The original concept of Batman, the TV show, is for kids.
Almost a PSA type of
I mean, you'll pass along some good things for them to do, and you'll just try to be the straight man to all these ridiculous cartoons and whatever Burt Ward is doing.
Yeah.
And he found a way to make that fun.
Yes.
Like a straight arrow who's really he's not in on his own joke necessarily, but he's in on the larger joke. And it was, watching the movie made me realize just how sweet Batman was. And how weird West's performance is.
It is weird, and has so many layers to it. And we talked about this a little bit about the rage that West brought to it. And
I think he's trying very hard not to kill everybody.
Yeah, and in the movie, rewatching it again this summer, I was kind of blown away by some of the lines in it, because Bruce Wayne falls in love with Kitka, the alter ego of Catwoman, and somehow doesn't see it, but that's part of the fun. And he wants to save her from one of the bad guys, as mentioned. I think it might be the Riddler, and he says, and if he doesn't let her go, I will beat him to a pulp or something like that. And it's just, whoa, like suddenly this real true violence, and that's him speaking as Wayne. Like this is very earnest and Wayne's honest feelings. And it was really neat after hearing you say about the trying not to kill people in the room and to let it come out as Wayne. Like he sort of lost control there. And it's neat to see West allow Wayne to do that.
Yeah, because it's clearly his choice.
Yeah, and I don't think he gets enough credit. And I've even heard critics say he played it straight and didn't get the joke, and that is totally false.
Oh, yeah. No, you couldn't do that show for 3 years and not understand.
He was having such a good time, but he hit it well. And it's amazing to some of those lines saying so dry. I mean, he brings comedy to lines that aren't written funny. Just the way he says them with his pauses and his, contemplation. And I was reading about how one of his inspirations was Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes. And he really brought a thing that I think has been lost in a lot of the other iterations of Batman, the detective work. And I love watching him pace and sort of stroke his chin and figure things out, and then eureka, and that passion, that excitement of solving the crime and not quite enjoying it, but then acting on it immediately to go save the day. And that heroic feel of Batman, I feel like, has been lost. Even though he is a hero and he gets things done, today we feel like he gets things done because he's the only one who can, and avenging the death of his parents. But I like seeing him enjoy being a hero, just wanting to do good. I think we don't always get the sense of that Bruce Wayne is a good person, just a troubled one.
Yeah.
And I like seeing both. And I like seeing Wayne come through. A lot of the cartoons and a lot of the comics, we spend very little time with him out of the uniform. And he's always this brooding, no, I'm not going to go to your barbecue. I've got to sit in the dark and be grumpy. I like seeing the human aspects of Bruce. I like seeing when he finds family and he lets his heart open. And that's something that we can relate to and grab onto. We like that he's a superhero that can kick butt, but it's nice to see the 10-year-old boy get a hug once in a while, and I wish we saw a bit more of that stuff. And Lego Batman did a little bit of that, which was nice to see. And I feel like you can see some of that in the West portrayal. You can see the humanity in him, which resonates with me. I like that aspect of his portrayal.
It's funny, the Nolan films kind of get there a little bit with Bale, but it's mostly because I think Christopher Nolan, on some level, is ashamed of making Batman movies. He wants to make Bond films.
Right.
The costume is the thing he wants to avoid the most.
Right.
So, I mean, there are even a couple of scenes where Bruce Wayne is the hero. Mm-hmm. Like the thing in The Dark Knight with hitting somebody's car, and it's just like, I'm playing a role, I'm having fun, but also, look, I don't have to wear a suit.
Yeah.
And then the bit in Dark Knight Rises about how damaged his body is and he shouldn't be Batman anymore. It's just Nolan going, there's got to be another way to tell the story.
Yeah.
And Bale's intensity just leads to a different interpretation. He wants to play Bruce Wayne as driven and wounded. But yeah, the whole point of West's Batman, which is the thing that I don't think any other actor really has grasped yet. Maybe Arnett gets it for the Lego Batman. But Batman is letting him be happy. Like, Batman is his release.
Right.
And although he really wants to beat people up and he's doing it so he can be violent, he's still fulfilled. Like, this is his purpose. Yeah. And it's not a dark purpose. He's a hero.
Yes.
And Bruce Wayne is always a little careful and he doesn't want to give the game away, and he's kind of shifty in that the West Bruce Wayne because he doesn't want to say too much.
Right.
And it gives another context to the hesitations. But Batman, as Adam West plays him, is somebody who's really, he's getting off on this. He's good at this job.
Yeah, I feel like every scene we see in the series and in the movie with Bruce and Dick is them looking for an excuse to put the outfits on.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're bored. They're making excuses for, we were out fishing all night or something, just all these crazy excuses they make for Aunt Harriet. But yeah, you're totally right. They're at their best when they're those heroes, because that's who they are. And the Bruce and Dick are sort of the masks, that's who they have to be when they're not who they really are. Yeah. I feel like that show and that movie really captures that, the idea that they want to be heroes. They if Batman and Robin didn't exist, they'd be firemen or they'd be cops or something. Like, they just want to help. Right. And that really comes through, and I like that. And as a kid, I loved it, and it made me want to do good. I remember there was an episode of the series where Batman he has this shiny buckle, and he used the sun to reflect off the buckle to, I don't remember if it was just to get a signal or a Morse code or something ridiculous. And I remember I had a little pocket mirror at my parents' house, and I took it out of the plastic housing and I super glued it to a belt, and I just would walk around and just reflect the sun. I couldn't do anything with it, of course, but that was like my first sort of delving into dress up. Was I wanted to be Batman, and I wanted to have all those great gadgets and how ridiculous they were. And yeah, it was great.
I'm pretty sure I had a tow utility belt, but nothing actually worked. It was just cheap plastic construction.
Yeah.
There was no grappling hook. They wouldn't give a child a grappling hook.
No.
But you may have blinded a pilot. You might have brought a plane down.
Yeah, I'm sure you could throw that high.
And then you'd get a stern lecture about that. Now we have to control the fun.
There was another one where he suspected he was going to get poisoned. So he got Alfred to bring him, I think, 9 cartons of buttermilk, and he drank them all straight. And the idea was it protected his stomach lining and it didn't absorb. So I asked my mom to go get me some buttermilk. I was convinced this is my favorite drink now. So she got 1 carton of buttermilk, and I tried drinking it, and I couldn't stomach it. It was disgusting. But I wanted to be him.
I wonder what they gave West instead. You couldn't. I mean, that would take the show down for the day. You couldn't just.
Yeah, I'm sure they cut it that they didn't show him drinking them all in front of us.
Or just bury him or something, like regular skim or something.
Yeah,
it'd still be bad for you.
Yeah. Maybe they just showed this drinking the same clip.
Batman's a little gassy today.
It's funny, the milk thing. I know that he had the part in Robinson Crusoe on Mars, a very, very small part, but I was reading that he was actually cast based on this Nestle Quick commercial. Have you seen this Nestle Quick commercial? So it's black and white, and he plays sort of a James Bond type guy. And he walks into this room, and it's supposed to be on a ship, and he's sort of thwarted this bad guy, and he's always got his Nestle Quick on him, and it's this weird, dry, goofy commercial. It's very Batman-esque. There's a trap door and.
So this would have been a Saturday morning commercial, that kind of thing?
I assume so, yeah. And but he wasn't doing it because he was a celebrity. He was a guy who auditioned for and got this commercial. And the producer of the show, William Dozier, saw this and brought him in because he thought that was going to be perfect for Batman. And that's so cool. And you can see that on YouTube, that commercial. It's fun to watch, and it's very, very much him, Bruce. A little more goofy, but then he famously was later after Batman was offered Bond on His Majesty's Secret Service.
I did not know that,
and he turned it down because he felt Bond should be British. I mean, this is West's version of the story, but he said later that he's kicked himself for that. But can you imagine Adam West as James Bond? And
I don't think I can.
Yeah,
I'm trying
it'd be
very
different
hard.
Movie. He'd be closer to Moore, I guess, than any of the others.
Yeah.
But I think he could maybe pull it off.
Could he do the accent? I mean, what do you want?
Oh yeah, I think they'd make him American. But then I can't imagine that the Broccoli's would allow that to happen. And the estate of.
I wonder if he was a threat. Like if he was just used in a negotiation with someone else.
That's very possible.
We did send the script to Adam West. You better sign quickly.
Yeah. No, it's probably closer to the truth. Yeah, because they've never deviated from someone from the UK since.
That would be hard to take.
Did you know that the producer William Dozier was also the narrator?
I did know that. I think I'm pretty sure because he never really narrated anything else, right?
No, and
voice. They
had people come in to do it, and he kept saying, "No, more like this, like the old serials." And so, why don't you just do it, Bill? And so he did it all 3 seasons and the movie, and that's really the only acting he's ever done.
Oh.
Also credited for creating the character of Barbara Gordon. That's
right. She was introduced to get girls to watch the show.
Yeah.
And spawned a minor fetish industry quite accidentally. Well, between her and Catwoman. I mean, there is something really fascinating about a show as innocent as Batman. And a movie as well, being as kind of aggressively sexy.
Yeah.
Because it was the 60s and it was just, the mod look was sort of creeping into it. And the look of the show and the film is something that we really, you can't ignore. And the pop art aspects of it. It looks more like a comic book than some of the comic books did at the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And And as a result, yeah, you've got sexy Catwoman and sexy Batgirl and small children watching the show, not fully understanding why they're responding to certain things.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. It was at a very interesting time. I mean, women's lib was kind of at a very high point then, right? In the mid '60s, and people talk about how Catwoman and Batgirl and those shows were exploited, but they were also very smart, intelligent people. People often criticize if a woman is playing a villain in a movie or a TV show, but I don't think that necessarily undermines that they're a woman because they're a bad guy or bad girl in the movie. If they're played as an intelligent person who has their own reasons for doing what they're doing, I mean, great. Well, why not? And
Catwoman is one of the more traditionally fun parts for anybody in the Bat universe, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, attractive and used her, wiles to manipulate Bruce, and it worked.
And literally everyone else.
Yeah, but also incredibly intelligent, and she always seemed like the most stable to me of the rogues gallery. Everybody else had these silly ideas and were big flights of fancy and giant personas, but she sort of seemed more grounded. I mean,
well, she has a brand. She wants to get rich and not work very hard.
Why does it need to be any more than that?
Yeah. And I mean, Julie Newmar is such a wonderful Catwoman. Although the first exposure I had to the character, the TV show character, was Eartha Kitt, which was also, looking back, an African American woman playing a villain on a nationally syndicated or network TV show in the mid '60s. That's pretty radical. I mean, imagine how. Well, I guess we don't have to imagine how angry people would get if there was a racial recasting on a Bat villain, because we've had Halle Berry as Catwoman, and that film was just generally judged to be awful.
Yeah,
weirdly, no one blames Barry.
No.
And nor should they.
I don't think so.
Anybody would have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I would have played Catwoman if I had the chance. But yeah, a bad movie. But yeah, Eartha Kitt put her own spin on it for sure, and she's been imitated later with various video game and animated versions of it.
Character recurs.
Yeah, and she had that great. I can't do it, but I think she did the best at that. Like, she really leaned into the cat thing, and she looked like she was having a ton of fun. She's very different. I feel like Merriweather and Newmar aren't super different. I think they probably coached Merriweather to be as close to Newmar as possible for the movie. Like But Eartha Kitt did her own thing, which is super fun. And I always loved that character when in the show when she would be playing. I don't know if they called her Selena in the show. I can't remember if she ever had that.
She must have, because
alter ego.
Yeah, she shows up in disguise, basically.
Yeah, and often like as some kind of alter ego, but in this she was Miss Kitka or whatever. But then she was revealed to be Catwoman, not Selena Kyle. But I love when she would wear like a leopard print suit from head to toe and a pillbox hat that was leopard print. Like, it was just so ridiculous, but super fun.
She's got to be herself.
Yeah,
she can't hide it.
And the movie was great because it brought all these amazing actors together, and it's such an ensemble piece for them, and they're all so equally crazy. And I love in their hideout they have these just shelves that are labeled sections. Like, there's question marks for the Riddler, and then one is like birds or something for the Penguin, and jokes for the it's so silly, but tons of fun. And I love seeing them interact with each other, these amazing actors. I got to meet Frank Gorshin in the late 90s. My dad and I had recently watched 12 Monkeys, and he had a part in that, which is great. He's got that. He had so much character to that guy who's looking around, and that I love that tongue thing. He's thinking, and he did a stand-up run through Yuck Yucks, and Dad and I went to see him, and he must have been pretty close to 70 by this point, and he did this amazing, like one-man show, one-man play of a shootout between, I can't remember all the guys who were supposed to be in it. Jack Nicholson, Kirk Douglas, Burt Lancaster, and maybe Eastwood. And he played all four of them, just talking to each other, and then there was sound effects for gunshots and stuff. And he reminded me of Jim Carrey. Like, he nailed the voices, amazing impressionist, but he also did the faces.
Yeah.
And his Jack Nicholson face, he just had his teeth out. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah,
and
Carrey has cited Gorshin a number of times as an inspiration because he does the full physical thing instead of just the voice.
Right, yeah. And it's impressive. It's impressive to see alive and almost 70 to still have that passion and to be doing impressions of people that a lot of people don't even know who they are. Like, to see Burt Lancaster impression by a guy in his late 60s and the mid 90s, like, it was pretty awesome. Yeah. So yeah, Dad and I both shook his hand after, and he seemed surprised that we would do that. But, you know, I was a fan because of the show, and to me, he is the most dangerous scene. He's the one bad guy the one rogue from the Batman series or movies that I wouldn't really turn my back on. Like, to me, he's got a real intensity to him. You know, some people would say there's a real parallel between the Joker and the Riddler. You know, they both can be silly, and whereas I think in this, the Joker really wants to have a good time, but I feel like the Riddler, he wants to kill people, and he wants to do it in fun ways. Like, he seems insane. He seems like a dangerous psychopath. The Joker, I think, seems fairly harmless, just kind of goofy, wants to have a good time. But
it's the cartoon bombs, right? Like, it just makes it less of a threat.
Yeah, but some of the ways, like, Gorshin will just talk to someone, it's just so intense. Like, you're like, whoa. And he was nominated for an Emmy for that, and deservedly so. It's
a fun, crazy performance. Like, he's not threatening to kids. Like, he's not scary, but he is. Right. He seems to be taking the crime thing a lot more seriously.
He does, yeah. Although it's so funny. I was watching the movie with Ian McIntyre, who, you know, there's a part of the movie, I think it was the Penguin. He knocked out Batman and Robin. At least that was what we were led to believe. In the car, and then he gets out of the car and he's about to drive away. And this is about 2 scenes after they tried to spring Batman and Robin into the sea into an exploding octopus and kill them.
As you do.
As you do. But as he gets into the car, before he gets into the car, he moves West's leg out of the way to make sure he doesn't run over him. And I was saying to Ian, like, it's so funny how they go back and forth between wanting to kill them and then just minor annoying them. I love that. It's just, to what end are we doing any of this, really? And it's just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, I do like the idea, too, that in the movie, the plot has to be big enough to justify a film. Mm-hmm. You know, so they're taking over the United Nations and turning people into paste and all that.
Right, yeah.
And it's kind of existentially horrifying.
Yeah.
But it's never not fun. Like,
no.
It's the thing that all these villains came together. They sort of outbid each other on what to do, and now they're doing this, and they're into it. They're all really, we're allowed, because, and obviously it's because the guest stars are the high value, right? So you want to get as much footage of them as you can. Mm-hmm. But you really do just get scenes where we get everything except the scene where they work out who's going to design which parts of the headquarters and how they figured out themselves.
Yeah,
which I would kind of like.
It would be kind of fun to see, yeah. It's funny how these things just sort of build themselves. They have an endless supply of henchmen, every piece of equipment they could ever want. Some of the henchmen actually die in this movie, which is pretty surprising. When they turn into powder, and then they can't be reconstituted. And I love how Robin is sometimes so innocent in this. And he'll say, well, what happened to them? Are they coming back? And I'm afraid they're not. Old chum. He's so gentle with him.
Those people trying to kill you, we kind of killed them.
Yeah. Not on purpose, of course.
Yes. Never mean to kill. But it just keeps happening. That's something else they don't really deal with in the Bale Nolan films. People do die a lot, even though Batman keeps talking about how he's not going to kill anybody.
It's true, yeah.
It just happens.
It just
he's the least careful Batman.
He is, yeah. Well, I mean maybe Affleck's...
Well, Affleck is openly murdering people.
Yes,
yeah. That's the Zack Snyder promise.
Yeah, the murderverse.
There's going to be slaughter.
Yeah.
Superman will 9/11 lower Metropolis, and Batman has a machine gun now, and, shut up. You're not allowed to.
There's a friend in town, you may have heard of From Superheroes. They do Text from Superheroes. Andrew Ivamy and Diana McCallum are two comedians in town who run that. And Andrew did a cut of He took Batman versus Superman, or Batman v Superman.
Yeah. LLP.
It's so stupid.
It sounds like a law firm.
And Man of Steel, and he cut it into, I think, like about 100-minute movie. And it works pretty well.
I have not seen it.
It's pretty cool. He did a screening of it a few weeks ago, and I really liked it. Because the parallels between Bruce's tragedy and Krypton's fall, he goes back and forth between that, and does that in like about 5 minutes, and there's no dialogue.
Okay.
And he's just got a musical score going underneath it, and it's really cool to see, okay, here's how Batman was created, here's how Superman was created. We don't have to really talk about it and hit us over the head with it, but he got rid of like 45 minutes of stuff in 5. There's very little Russell Crowe in it. But it keeps it moving. And then what's really great is he cuts back and forth between the fight in Metropolis and Man of Steel and the sort of flashback in Batman v Superman with Wayne in Metropolis. And to have that as one big scene is pretty epic and pretty cool. So yeah, I'll see if I can get you a copy of that.
I'd be curious to watch it. I mean, certainly those films can only be improved by having less footage.
Yeah, by cutting them down, yeah.
Yeah, the most annoying thing about the Snyder films is that they come close here and there to something that could work.
Yeah.
The first hour of Man of Steel is fine, even with Russell Crowe and Flying Dragon Man. You know, it's okay. You're telling the same. You're sort of playing with the Donner formula that was established in '78 and showing us the origin. And they are smart enough that they do the same thing in Wonder Woman, which is that you keep the character out of the suit for as long as possible, and then that makes it an iconic reveal.
Right.
Even though we have seen Superman show up a million times now, when other people see it for the first time, if the movie has delayed that long enough, it still can land. I mean, the No Man's Land sequence in Wonder Woman is easily the best thing that Warner has produced since.
I mean, I think it has to happen in Act 2. I don't like it to wait longer than that, because you get to the thing we missed with Man of Steel to me is a montage of him saving people.
Yeah. Superman doesn't save people.
Right. No, that's not his thing.
He doesn't care.
And a lot of people don't like Superman Returns.
I love it.
There's a lot of fun in that movie, man. It's that to me is a good Superman movie. I mean, I don't love Ralph because I feel like he was directed to try to be Reeve.
He is, yeah. He's very clearly, especially as Clark Kent.
Yeah, and I think that was a mistake. But I mean, to me, what's missing from everything that came after that is that plane scene. That plane sequence is awesome and harrowing, because what I love seeing Superman do is, we know he can do anything, but I want to see stuff that pushes him. It was hard for him to stop that plane. We knew we could do it, but it was challenging. There were more things going on. And then what an iconic reveal of him landing in the most American place in the world, a baseball stadium, holding a plane and putting it down, and then silence, and then applause. Okay, I'm back. And saved tons of people. Yeah. That is a Superman moment that has to be, I think, in a Superman movie. And Snyder doesn't get that. Yeah. I think Snyder is an amazing visual guy. He can paint a picture.
Yeah, he's a panel stylist.
But he can't tell a story.
He can capture the intensity of an image.
Yes.
Really well. That's his absolute strength.
Yeah.
Although, I still, his Dawn of the Dead remake is great. Although I think James Gunn probably gets a lot of credit for writing that.
Yes, if he's working with a good script, then that can help. But if he's too involved with that story, then I think things fall apart. Yeah, I like Dawn of the Dead a lot too. But probably not as complicated a story as a Superman one needs to be.
Yeah. And the thing about Superman Returns is that it understands the best thing about Donner's film is that the villains are really secondary to fate and accidents. That most of the stuff that happens in the plane crash sequence in Returns is because the power cut out for a second.
Right.
But it's all the other things that get set up. It's like a Final Destination sequence. You get all these little things that go wrong, culminating in a colossal tragedy that only Superman can stop.
Yes.
And it reminds us just how frail and powerless humans are, because we are subject to all of these things and he's just not. Mm-hmm. And they kind of get there in Batman v Superman with the God sequence where he lands in his welcome. Or maybe, was that Batman v Superman or Man of Steel? It's like a Puerto Rican fire or something. That's the sequel.
I think so, yeah. Which felt like it was shoehorned in for that idea.
Yeah, but it doesn't fit anywhere, exactly.
No.
It's just there.
Yeah.
He's the lonely God. And that's not interesting. It's not as interesting as someone who desperately wants to be one of us.
Yeah.
And has to keep stopping whatever he's doing to fix things.
Or, well, it's also not as interesting in Superman, I think it was Superman 2, where Lois started to catch on that he was Superman. And I love that part where she sort of jumps into Niagara Falls. Yeah. And Clark just, like, goes to the edge and, like, sorry, he didn't show up. I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's so cool that Superman's busy today. He fought that impulse to be Superman and just be a human. And that's pretty neat, too.
Well, I think on some level Clark wants to save her, so Clark is worthy of her.
Yeah,
but also, I do like that little quiet bit of sadism where it's like, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to do the easy thing. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm going to make it hard on you for this.
Yeah.
And it's a little weird.
It is a little weird.
Punishing Lois, but Lois kind of jumped into the lake there. So
she did.
Or the river. It's her own fault.
And that's neat that it also didn't have to do with a villain created this. Because some of the most, to me, interesting stuff about Superman is when he isn't fighting someone. The other thing I hate, everybody hates, is that the way that his dad died. Him not saving his dad. To me, that is the point where he should have chosen to reveal himself as Superman to the world. He could have hid behind something and changed very quickly or whatever.
Yeah, he's faster than the human eye can see.
Exactly.
There are a dozen ways.
A dozen ways.
You could
and then
throw him to safety, break his leg. Dad, come on.
And then later in the movie, you give Pa Kent cancer, something that Superman can't save him from.
That's how he died. That's how they always died before. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a tropical disease or something in the comics, and it was a heart attack. And
it's poignant to have someone who can do anything not be able to do something. Not because they don't choose to, because there's just no way to save someone from this disease. And that's heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. The man who can do anything who can't do this to save his dad. And to bring it back to the conception of Batman, here we have someone who has been, well, I mean, we don't yet have a Batman movie. He's shown up in a couple of them, and he writes a letter in Wonder Woman. But there's no, Snyder, I would have thought that after all the missed opportunities on Superman, that Snyder would get Batman. Because he's a power fascist. He gets the idea of being strong enough to do whatever you want. Right. And then Batman, who is actively breaking laws to do the thing he thinks needs doing, and is only human, that's a more interesting conception of what Snyder wants to do. Right. And then he just gives him a machine gun and lets him kill people. And it's just... Right. Whatever Affleck is doing as Wayne is negated by the idea that, Batman murders people and is crazy. Well, I think that also fits with the pattern we've seen in Batman since the 80s, and that, you sort of said it, that Batman can do whatever he wants. I don't like him thinking that. I like the idea of Batman following the law when he can and breaking it when he has to. I like the idea of him using restraint, but he has resources no one else has.
Right.
I like the idea of him being the only one who can do it, but not him being able to do whatever he wants because of that. And I think that message has gotten muddled a lot over the last 20 years of Batman, and I don't like it. I like the West Batman. I like that he is a deputized agent of the law in Gotham City. I think that's super fun.
And people are happy to see him. That's the difference between West Batman and every other Batman.
Yeah. That's really changed too. Is that everybody thinks he's this terrible outlaw? There are very few Gothamites, it seems, in anything we've seen since the mid-'80s that really appreciate Batman.
Which is weird, because they must have noticed at some point that all the bad guys are being stopped.
Yeah, the crime rate has to be going down.
Yeah, and he's not as bad as the guy who tried to blow up a barge, or...
Right.
I guess, nobody knows about the nuclear detonation at the end of Rises, but surely they knew that Bane was not a good person. Running around, citizens of Gotham, look what I'm killing people.
Well, he threatened to destroy Gotham with that at the football stadium, and everybody knew it was going to go off.
Basement.
Yeah.
At that point, I think, although I suppose in the Nolan-verse, Batman really only appears 2 or 3 times, period.
There's barely any Batman in that movie,
Yeah.
Which is weird. Yeah. I like that movie. I didn't love it when it first came out, but I like what Nolan's trying to do. People criticize that he didn't get Batman, that Batman isn't someone who is trying to get out of being Batman. But what if he was? I mean,
I'm fine with that.
I like hearing a different take on the story. I think it's kind of cool. It has its problems.
And alienating. It must not be fun to be Batman if you have to do it forever.
Yeah.
Clooney aside.
Right.
Because he was enjoying it.
And
but that was a different world, right? Like,
Totally.
I think the problem with the Nolan films is that by inherently trying to ape reality, they are telling us there's no place for Batman. That he is he's an elaborate reaction. He's a spy kind of guy. If there was a guy running around in a bat costume, it would look. That's the problem. He establishes the real world of Gotham so well that when Batman finally shows up, outside the context of like the Scarecrow hallucinations in Batman Begins, where it's really effective, you're like, oh, so he's a ninja who can't run around without a bat costume, and he mostly works in the night because in daylight, in daylight he really looks very silly.
Yeah. If
you're the only one, it looks weird.
Right.
And that's kind of the one good thing about the new DC films is that by creating a universe where it isn't our reality, you at least have a context where Batman can run around a lot.
True.
When he shows up at the beginning of Suicide Squad, it's the best moment, and I don't know if you've seen Suicide Squad.
I haven't. It's the one Batman appearance I've kind of avoided.
It's the only one of Affleck's so far that's really worth it.
Oh, yeah?
Because in that one moment, he shows up, he's there to arrest Deadshot, Will Smith's character, and Will Smith's out in civilian clothes, and he's with his 13-year-old kid, his daughter. And Affleck shows up in full costume. It's the only, he's been tipped off, he knows he's there. He shows up as Batman and just says, I don't want to do this in front of your daughter. And you suddenly get, oh, that's right. That's right. You're a traumatized child who dresses up in a costume.
Yeah.
And you don't want to pass that on to anybody.
Yeah.
It's the first indication that maybe Affleck knows the character, even if Snyder doesn't.
Yeah.
And David Ayer just has no time for him
right
in the movie. But it's the one thing that gives me a glimmer of hope of someone getting Batman.
I love that.
Because that's an Adam West line.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so for me, Batman. Yeah, I want more of that. And I did like the end of Rises, that he put his trust, he turned the Wayne Manor into the orphanage.
Right,
Oh man, I'd never seen that in the comics before, and I thought, what a perfect end to Batman, to turn that home into a home for orphans. To me, the person who wrote that moment gets Bruce Wayne and gets Batman, and all the emotional beats in that movie worked for me. Yeah. When Gordon realized that it was Bruce Wayne, and he said, even when you put a coat on a young boy's shoulders, I was weeping in the theater. For them to finally have that moment, I thought it was great. I thought it was a little far-fetched that he didn't already know.
Yeah. I just assume Gordon's been covering for Bruce Wayne for
me too.
Decades.
Yeah, exactly. And in some stuff, they sort of allude to that. I think it was in year one, there's a part where he dropped his glasses or something, and he sort of pretended he didn't see who it was who was there and stuff like that. I like stuff like that.
Because the real Bruce Wayne would be such a mess. To either suddenly start acting normally now that he's got the Batman outlet, would be a giveaway, would be a tell to people who knew him.
True.
Or it would be just, he would still be insane anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
We're buying buildings, we're doing things for charity. Okay, also I want all the lemonade. Yeah. Just because I'm incredibly... because that's the Will Arnett Batman. That's the Batman that's having fun with it. The one with enough of a throwback to the playfulness of the 60s milieu that he can get away with it.
Right.
And it's just, it's good to see that people still have room in their hearts for that interpretation, that for the West interpretation, and for the way that the Lego Batman movie Joker is motivated by feeling overlooked and insecure,
right?
Which I kind of that's a motivation I can ascribe to the villains on the TV show, because they kept coming back.
Yeah,
they kept getting beaten and they just kept coming back. It's like, oh, come on, we can fight some more.
Yeah. I love that comment on the whole thing. Is it just somebody who needs attention, and then what does that mean? Who is this person? And they didn't delve too deep. It's still a kid's comedy at the end of the day, but it was fun to be that self-aware of it and to poke fun at it a bit. Yeah, I love being able to have fun with Batman. Why shouldn't we? And I hope we see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So do you you work in voice acting and animation. Have you Have you seen, I think it's the Grey Ghost episode of Batman the Animated Series? The one where they actually bring in Adam West?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it. It's so great.
I still haven't caught up to it. I've managed to miss it every time.
I've picked and chosen sort of. I haven't seen all of the animated series, but I did see that, and I love that. And I love when they pay homage like that. I think it's so great. I mean, Conroy is an amazing Batman. Definitely the best animated Batman. He just nailed it. And that show really showed a lot of... It was like a noir. I mean, they showed so much detective work in that show. Definitely more Batman than Bruce, but still fun. And that Batman was much more stable than a lot of stuff we see now. You know, he was very much a detective, and I really loved it. But yeah, having West involved was really cool. And recently, I think it was late last year, for the 50th anniversary of this film, Batman 66, they did an animated version with who all was in it. It was West, Ward, and Julie Newmar.
Oh, this was the DC animated movie.
Yeah, The Return of the Caped Crusaders. I mean, it's kind of weird because the return only refers to the fact that it's a return for us, that these people are coming back. They haven't gone anywhere. Have you seen the film?
No.
It's really funny, but it doesn't quite hit the mark because, well, the characters all sound older, but it's still 1966. Okay. They're still the age they were then. Nothing has changed. It would be neat to maybe see them aged up a bit. But they do things they couldn't do in the show because it's a cartoon. So there's these amazing stunts, great action set pieces. And to me, that took away from it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I kind of like the kind of cardboard feel of the series.
Yeah.
And the movie. I mean, the movie definitely had a bigger budget. I love that.
But it still has Bat-Shark-Repellent. Absolutely,
yeah. And the biff and the boom. That comes very late. But it's so funny to me, and it just seems like it fits this whole world, that it premiered in Austin, Texas, because that's where the people who built the Bat-Boat were from, and that was their payment.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so weird. Yeah, it's such a strange thing. And it was supposed to premiere, I think, July 1st of that year, but there was a mass shooting in Austin that day.
Oh, right.
And
sure.
a man killed, I think, 16 people and wounded 32, and yeah, so this kind of stuff isn't new. These mass shootings in America.
I didn't realize that was derailed by the tower shooting.
It was, yeah.
Whitman, wasn't it? Charles Whitman? There's a documentary, an animated documentary about it, a rotoscoped documentary called Tower that was released last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm not certain if that was the exact same. Huh. But yeah, it did derail the premiere of the film, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, August 1st. It was supposed to be August 1st. Yeah. Yeah, pretty crazy. But yeah, so many weird things tied into that. I love the boat and the helicopter, and then Bert climbing down and dangling from his legs with the bat spray in his mouth, and so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not even remotely based on real world logic, which is why it's fun.
No, that is why it's fun. Absolutely, why not?
To the point where they, some days you can't get rid of a bomb. Direct address. He never talked to us. No. All the lectures were for Robin's benefit.
Yeah.
And then they just finally figure out, if you have to break the fourth wall, let's just do it right here.
Yeah.
And it's delightful.
It is.
It's so ludicrous and so silly, and instantly, I think that's why I can't picture him as Bond.
It's hard to take him seriously. I mean,
but I don't have to. I have Batman.
Right, and I mean that's something he struggled with, of course, too. I mean, he was a serious, classically trained actor who brought this gravitas. Sort of the era of Shatner, right?
Yeah. And he was coming up through the studio system right at the point where his way of acting was dying out too. Mm-hmm. I mean, Brando and Dean were coming in and showing people a more emotionally immediate performance.
Yeah.
And I think of West as sort of like John Gavin in Ben-Hur, where he's doing a really good job of what he's doing, but it just reads wrong because of everything else.
Yeah, and the desire to have that in film is going away at that point. So yeah, I mean, Adam, it's sort of a double-edged sword because it brought him back to the forefront. I mean, he never really was a star until Batman. And then you sort of resent what's making you a star, and well, you probably wouldn't have got your shot if it wasn't for this anyway, you know. And of course, in later years, he's embraced it, and you've said before that there's no bad Adam West story. I mean, fans just love him, and you know, I've told my story many times about meeting him, and it was.
Well, there are people listening to this who I'm pretty sure haven't heard it. So if you want to tell it, I'd love to hear it.
Well, yeah. So
it is a great story.
It's my favorite for sure. So you know, I've been working as an actor and doing cartoons and stuff for a while, and a few years ago I got to go to Fan Expo, our sort of local Comic-Con here in Toronto, and I was signing autographs for kids who loved Bakugan and Beyblade and some of the stuff I was in. And so I got to get in there early on the second day. I think it was the Saturday morning, like 9:30 in the morning or something. And I went and stood in front of where Adam West's desk was, and no one else was there yet. So I had to wait for like half an hour before they opened the doors. And then there were probably a couple people behind me. And then the curtains were drawn, and a man came out carrying a stack of photos, and then Adam West behind him. And I felt a flutter in my heart. I don't get nervous meeting people usually, but in my mind, that hadn't changed in 30 years. This was Batman I was meeting today. And so he sat down and got comfortable, and he motioned for me to come up, and he said, "So how are you, young man?" And I probably just went, and then his handler said, "Oh, can you please back up? We're not ready to do autographs yet." And Adam looks up at him and says, "Leave us alone. I'm having a conversation with this young man." And my heart just leapt. I mean, that was just... to hear him say that, like that, about me, it was great. And so I talked to him for a good 10 minutes. I told him immediately what I did, and he was talking to me about voiceover and how it's a fun thing to do, but it can be hard work. And he was talking about how lucky he's been and how he appreciates all the opportunity he's been given. And I brought up Family Guy, and he said, "Well, you know, you've done a lot of voice work." And he said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And he feels so lucky that he was able to play the mayor in that. And that's another thing where his sensibilities fit so well, his weird sense of humor in that character. So we talked for a bit, and then finally I pulled out this magazine I have a friend had given me from 1966. It was a teeny bopper magazine called Teen Life. And Bert and Adam are on the cover in costume, and there's probably a 15-page spread in there. It's a story. They're behind-the-scenes lives with Adam and Bert. And so we asked if he could take a look at it, and he thumbed through it really slowly, really scanning it, and he got really quiet, and I got this sense that he hadn't looked at these pictures in a really long time, and it was so neat to share this moment with this man who was such a hero to me. It's not me scratching, folks. That's the dog.
I'm trying to figure out if we should cut around this, but
it's charming. We have a dog here. Dexter's great.
This is the problem too when he starts going.
Yeah.
People think I'm getting bored.
Yeah, right. All right, enough of your story.
It was pretty rude of you to start humping. It's like, no, Jesus, no.
All right, I'll give you the option to cut around it if you want. Where was I? So he's thumbing through the magazine, and I'm sharing this moment with him that I really felt we were sharing a moment. This man that was a hero to me, and looking at his past with me at this book, and it was really, really nice. A nice, quiet moment. And then he closed the cover and he signed it for Jason, Adam West. And he shook my hand and he wished me luck on my endeavors. And you know, I like to say to people, you hear this saying that you shouldn't meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you, but sometimes they become your heroes again. And he did that day. I walked away smiling ear to ear, and that smile comes back every time I tell this story, and I'll tell anyone who listens. Yeah, it was great. And for him to take that time with me and to be so kind, I mean, he didn't have to. Yeah. And that, to me, speaks to the man he was. And yeah, it's cool that for years his Adam West Batman was my hero, and now Adam West is, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, is there anything? I mean, do you have a specific Adam West tribute built in somewhere? Do you use Batman or Batman the movie or just West in your own creative DNA? Has it found its way in?
Absolutely. I mean, not in an overt way. I think that people would necessarily recognize, but for the show, for sure. Gave me the interest in the old serials, which I've gone back and since watched. And I loved how serial-like the TV show is. The cliffhangers, the over-the-top 40s style narration.
Right.
That narration, for sure, has become a big part of what I do. And it's on my demo tape, and it's how I approach various characters, narration, comedy. I've done a lot of sketch comedy, and I love to write these very serious sort of detective type people who say ridiculous things with dry humor.
Right.
And in the cartoons I'm in now, I'll get a lot of characters where something will happen, like, I don't know, say a pie falls down onto the floor, and like someone will go, "Oh no!" That's sort of what they're hinting at. There's all these exclamation points, but I always like to go for the, "Oh no." I love the dryness.
Yeah.
I love the making it small can sometimes get a bigger laugh. So yeah, the deadpan silliness and the over-the-top heroic voiceover for sure comes from that. And just personally, he was a role model, man. Like, I wanted to be a good person. I've thought at times in my life of wanting to become a police officer, but I don't think I would really be able to do it. I don't think I'd like it. I think my mom would be worrying way too much too every night, calling, make sure I'm okay. But I like the idea of, his example was to help everybody. And it wasn't as a diverse landscape on television at the time, but I got the sense that Batman didn't have any, he was not bigoted. I felt like he felt everyone deserved justice. And that's something that I believe. And he, I think as much as he liked beating up the criminals and putting them in jail, I think he also believed in rehabilitation. And he tried to set an example for his ward Robin and for all the children who were watching it. And as goofy and crazy and over the top as that show was, I think the character that Adam West played as Batman in that show was a hero that people can actually look up to, and he set an actual good example, and that's the kind of Batman I want to be, man.
I think it's wonderful that your love is pure and true, just like the character. I think it's something that's really... He was earnest without being... I mean, he was incredibly earnest. He was so over the top earnest that it made it normal again.
But not pandering.
No, yeah. He didn't, and as you say, he didn't judge people by the color of their skin. He judged them by how badly he wanted to punch them.
Yeah.
That's my Batman.
Yeah.
Not bigoted, just violent.
It's necessary. There's a bit of violence necessary, yeah.
My thanks to Jason Deline, who's all over the place these days. You'll see him later this year on Star Trek Discovery, and right now he's preparing an 8-week voiceover workshop in Toronto, Find Your Voice, starting September 5th. You can hit him up for information on that at info@jasondeline.com. You can find Jason on Twitter at JasonDeline, all one word, and you can find Batman on Blu-ray and DVD from 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play. And of course, the Batman TV series is available in a ridiculously good Blu-ray box from Warner Home Entertainment. Oh, and Fan Expo Canada takes over the Metro Toronto Convention Centre this Thursday, August 31st, through Sunday, September 3rd. And you can find everything you need to know about that at fanexpocanada.com. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you want to leave a review up on iTunes, why, that would be very kind of you, chum. Thanks for listening.